Hey there, welcome back. Let's today talk about the Heritage Rough Rider, and we're going to compare it a little bit to some of these other guns. And actually, I'm going to throw this one in the mix too. So let's start with the Rough Rider itself first. The reason I wanted one of these is I shot a friend's, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? And for the price, really, everybody I think can afford one and should have one. And this particular model is going to be their, I call it, this is my term, not theirs, but like their flagship, because it has a 9-round cylinder, it has a combo, so you get the 22 LR and the 22 Magnum, and it has the adjustable sights. And these are actually really good adjustable sights. So let me get a flashlight here, because these have a really nice kind of half circle, more like a half oval hoop looking thing for the rear sight here. And let's see if I can. So when I shine light on them, even on this is just it's on the lowest setting, like the firefly setting, just a couple lumens, I think. And you can see that they glow really well. Same thing with the front sight. Right, so the light collection is really good. And let me see if I can get a good sight picture here. Of course, it's going to be a little bit blurry, but the green on orange works well. So this is a 4-click. And before we go any further, let's do the traditional YouTube checking of the gun. So it's empty. So this one has, as everybody knows by now, a safety. So right now the safety is engaged, and that means that the hammer doesn't actually touch the back of the gun. If I flip the cylinder, or if I flip the safety off, you can see that the hammer rides forward, and now it makes contact with the frame. So you do, because it's a 4-click, you do have this. I don't know, I hate to use the word safety notch, because some people get so mad and they say that it doesn't, it's not a good safety feature or whatever. But in any case, it's known as a safety notch. So some people are perfectly fine using this as a safety and loading all rounds. Some people leave an empty chamber under the firing pin. Of course, with this, you don't really need to do that, because you have the option of just turning on the safety, and then your hammer won't come fully forward anyways. So either way you slice it, this gun kind of gives you the whatever option you want. I mean, if you want to leave the safety off and leave a chamber empty, that's up to you. With 9 rounds, I'd say that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of strange, because you could easily get, I think, confused with how many rounds you put in there. I don't know that I would trust that I counted correctly, but I suppose you could. But I plan on using the safety, I think. I don't mind it at all. I know some people are very upset when they see not just a safety, but even the sights, right? Some people get so upset when they see non-standard features on a 1873, style gun, and I just don't understand that. I mean, there's guns for everybody. If you really want something that's true to the original, then just get something that's true to the original. But let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. But let's do a little comparison with this and some other more well-known or more traditional versions of this single-action army type gun. So we'll start with this. This is a Cimarron Lightning, and the reason I say it's comparison it's comparable is this is a single action, whereas traditionally the real guns, once you start getting into this style, this era, you start seeing some double actions. So traditionally this probably would have been a double action at the time in the 1800s. You're talking about maybe the mid to late 1880s. But what Cimarron does is basically they take their normal 1873, this is not the Model P, but they take their base model, which they call the Model P, and they shrink it a little bit, and that's your Lightning and Thunderer. And of course they put a different grip on it, but this is different. This is the Evil Roy, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Besides the difference in the grips, you can see that it is a different frame, right? Obviously you can see these are not interchangeable. You can just change the grips on them. So, but that's from here back. So just looking forward, you can see that everything else is fairly the same, actually. The barrel length is a little bit longer on this one, but I think this one is 5.5 and this one is 6.5. Obviously, this doesn't have a safety, right? But other than that, I mean, the function is kind of the same. This is also a 4-click gun. That was too quick. Hold up. There we go. 4 clicks. And just because I already checked it, but just because I know people are gonna demand it, give the people what they want. Safety check, which you should do. I just don't. I think if you check it off camera right before the video, I don't think you have to check it on camera, but it's a good idea just to teach new shooters, you know, the idea of always checking. So I'll try to always check it on camera, but just know, if you're one of those people who just gets super upset, just know that I've always checked them multiple times before I start the video. So, to Heritage's credit, they actually, I think, made a nicer gun than this one. And I don't mean as far as, you know, obviously this has a better, you know, these are what they call pot steel, right? So the steel, I'm not talking about the steel, I'm just talking about the overall experience. This one is actually a little bit better than this one. And the reason for that is, number one, this gun is tight. I mean, it's a chore. Whereas this one is a lot smoother compared to that one. Now you can see that this one feels like it's moving some heavy lock work for some reason, right? It sounds like you're moving some gears. Okay. Now this one sounds here. Let me get closer. And so I'm going to do the Lightning. So listen here. Compared to the Heritage, sounds like it's moving smaller gears or something. I don't know what the difference in the lock work looks like underneath, but all three of these other Cimarrons that I have, they all sound more substantial, whereas this one sounds a little more, I don't know, dainty is the word I'm going to go with. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just, you know, it's not moving parts that are as heavy. These might just be heavier parts inside. But this one, what happens is that it doesn't seat the rounds properly. So when you're loading, what will happen is you'll load and then it won't turn. And you look and you see that the round is not completely in there, and you have to actually go in there with your thumb and kind of push it in. And same thing, it kind of sticks on the extraction side too. So something about, I don't know if it's just this one in particular, or I haven't tried any of the other 22s that Cimarron makes, but it just doesn't, you know, the fitting of the rounds to the cylinder, the cylinder specs maybe is just a slight bit off. Versus, you know, something like this, which is the 45 Colt, and I mean, you know, the rounds just drop right in, and then they, you know, they pop right out. So something about just this particular one, maybe it's not all models. Maybe it's just my particular gun. It just sticks. So, you know, to that effect, this is just a better shooting experience to the person using it. Also, the balance seems a little better, even though they both balance right, kind of in front. They surprisingly have good balance. So both of them balance kind of right in front of the cylinder, just about. But for some reason, this one just feels more heavy. Now, if you look at the barrel from this end, you know, you can see that both of them have substantial barrels. Okay, there's a lot of barrel. So that's what makes this one in particular very heavy. This one just feels like a brick. This one feels lighter and more nimbler. I don't know how they got away with that. I don't know how they did it, because they're basically, this one is a little bit lighter. I know that the metal's different, but I think it's just because of the type of metal. Like they use steel here, and this is like aluminum and the zinc alloy. So what probably happens is just the balance shifts, but this feels, even with the longer barrel, it just feels better in the hand than this one. This one just feels like a brick. So even though I think this is a cool gun, and it's the first, you know, kind of single action type gun that I had, you know, I don't know that it's quite my favorite. To be honest, I don't really shoot it that much. Especially now that I have this, I'll definitely use this one over this one. This one also has a 22 mag, which I'm a big fan of. So just for kicks, I'm going to show you something about weight and weight distribution. So this is a 7.5-inch barrel. Okay. It's an 1851, shoots 38 special. Big octagonal barrel, right? This one actually feels better in the hand than this one. And that's what I mean. That's the strange thing. And sometimes it's not. And the reason I'm not like putting these on a scale is because it's not about the actual weight. It's about the feel. How does it feel, right? I'm not talking about how many grams is it. That doesn't matter. I'm talking about when you pick it up, does it feel good or does it feel clunky and awkward? And this one just feels clunky and awkward. Whereas even this 1851 was a much bigger barrel. It just feels good. It feels balanced, right? And that's what I like about this one, is even with the 6.5-inch barrel versus like the 4 3/4 or 5.5, it just feels good. They got the balance right. It feels good in the hand. I like holding it. I like, you know, I just like the way it feels. I like the controls. I like the aesthetics, and I like the ergonomics of it. So good job to Heritage on putting this together. You know, regardless of barrel length, just getting like a good hand feel, really having to just feel comfortable. Right. This is also about 1/3 of the price of this one. So that's definitely worth some kudos, right? This one's $200. This one was with taxes, came out to around close to 600, I think. So good job, Heritage, on that one. And then let's just do a little comparison to this one. So size difference, you can see that this is obviously a bigger frame. Again, this is the traditional size. This is kind of a sized down for the 22, which I think was a good idea. I've seen some that are like full size just for 22. You end up with, it's just too heavy, and I think that's one of the problems with this, is it's too much steel. I mean, it's all barrel, it's just too much, you know. And the reason that feels lighter, right? Again, feels lighter. I'm not talking about is lighter. I'm talking about feels lighter. It's because look at the difference. I mean, look how much weight you have with that really thick barrel, right? It's all steel versus this one, which is almost bored out, you know, because that 45 Colt is such a big round. I mean, this is just a tube, and this is like almost bar stock. So the balance and the weight on this is just nowhere near as good as something like these two. And the other thing is that this is a 9-shot, right? And, you know, I'm just going to be honest. This makes me happy. Just looking at this, just seeing a 9-shot cylinder in what's traditionally a 6-gun, it just makes me, happy as a shooter. It makes me want to carry this gun. So when I go out to, you know, friends' property and stuff, you know, I can carry anything I want. And 9 shots of 22 mag with maybe some snake shot in there, you know, that's a great choice. 22 mag is great for most of the things that we're going to encounter out there. Now there's a lot of hogs, there's a lot of coyotes, some mountain lions, all in this area, right? But what am I likely to see when I'm out there during the day? Probably something, you know, snakes, maybe like skunks, or, you know, some kind of pest. Like armadillos tend to dig, and they have horses out there, so sometimes they don't want things that dig because the horses will break their legs stepping into a burrow. So, you know, the reason for this gun is it's great for like critter control for things that dig and tear up the horse pasture. And you can put snake shot in it, and you're covered with snakes too. So you got 9 rounds, you know, that's plenty for just being out there. I don't think you're going to come across, you know, 15 snakes coming at you at once. So having this 9-shot cylinder is just, it's so useful. It's such a versatile, useful gun, and you can get them. I mean, sometimes during the holidays they drop under $100. I know, not this particular model, but kind of the more base model. You can get them, I've heard, for like $70 during the holidays. So there's really no reason not to own one of these. Not only is it just fun to shoot, not only is it great to get people into shooting, they're a little less maybe intimidating, right? Than something like you know, high speed Glock with the red side or something. It just seems less intimidating. This is just, everybody knows cowboy guns. Everybody knows the Peacemaker. And it's a good starting point. But also it's useful. And don't discount revolvers, and don't discount single actions. Revolvers are still absolutely pertinent in this day and age, and single actions are still in use by a lot of people because they do what needs to be done. Not everybody needs, you know, 30 rounds of you know, 9mm HST, right? Sometimes you just need some 22 mag. That's all you need. So different guns for different uses. And I think that this is $200 very well spent. Now I do want to point something out. There is a little bit of fluke in here, and it comes with the unloading. So here, let's say the trigger's been fired, right? And you start ejecting. No problem, right? Okay, let's free the cylinder up. One click, nothing. Nothing. You have to hold the cylinder like in just the right spot with one hand, and then eject, and then it clicks, and then you do that again, right? So you have a couple options to get around that. Number one is what I showed you, just kind of two-handed. The other one is if you know they're all shot, you can put your safety on, and then you can act like you've shot it. Okay, rotate to the next spot, drop the hammer. I mean, you could just pull the trigger because honestly, you have the safety that stops it from hitting, so you're not technically dry firing. And even if you were, even if you have the safety off, you have spent rounds in there, so it's not like you're not hitting the back of the frame. But because you may have forgotten that one of the rounds didn't fire before, so I would actually just leave the safety on if you're going to do it this way, and then you have to manually cycle, eject, cycle, so, or you could just pop out the cylinder, empty it, refill it, and then pop the cylinder back in. So I did want to point that out because it is kind of a fluke, which I think is strange. I think it's weird that they managed to get all this stuff, all these features into this gun, but they couldn't manage to get the unloading part to line up. I don't know. That's odd. But in any case, just so you know. So there you go. There's my initial thoughts on the Heritage Rough Rider in 22 LR / 22 Magnum, and just a little comparison between it and some more established versions of the single action group of pistols. So as always, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything you want to see, and see you guys next time.